Greetings gamers, my name is Anto and today I want to show you some of my favourite game master tools that aren't ChatGPT or generative AI. This video is sponsored by ChatGPT tokens, more on them later. So I was watching another D&D YouTuber talk about some AI stuff the other day, and in the comments there were so many people saying how they use things like ChatGPT for everything from generating names to making towns and villages to plot hooks and looking up rules, and other people were talking about using GenAI for tokens and maps. And the whole time I was reading these comments, I was thinking about the incredible human-made tools that I've come across in my years GMing. So I thought in today's video I'd put together a list of these resources to give you a whole bunch of options for things to use as a game master that aren't generative AI. This video is going to have a slant biased towards D&D style heroic fantasy, but no matter what style or genre of game you play, I promise you there are tons of human-made resources out there and you won't struggle to find them. As a general rule of thumb, the best places to go to find these resources for specific games if you're playing something outside of the heroic fantasy genre is to head to the game's subreddits and their Discord servers, because you'll almost certainly find people talking about the tools that they use in those places. So we're going to break down the list today into a couple of different sections. The first is going to be maps, and then we're going to talk about image assets, so tokens and artwork and things like that. Then we're going to talk about writing tools, and then finally I've got a kind of nebulous catch-all category right at the end for some other useful stuff that I think that you should just know about. So kicking things off with maps, we're going to start right at the world level, and if you want to generate an entire planet's worth of map, there is no better resource than Asgard's world map generator. I've talked about this on the channel before, I've used it in some videos, and like everything, it will be linked down in the description below. But this tool is going to allow you to instantly, one click, just generate a whole bunch of continents and land masses that you can use as a starting point for your world building. There's a bunch of tools that will allow you to go in and granularly get into the details and the weeds, but for most people's purposes, all they really need is a general kind of starting point for land masses, and that's all you'd get in GenAI anyway. So this is much better because it is going to give you way more control as and where you need it. Then going down a tier to sort of regional maps, so slightly more zoomed in. And for this, my recommendation goes to Watabu. Now, I've talked at length about the Watabu generators on the channel before. I've made videos dedicated to using their generators for all kinds of stuff in the past, but they really do make incredible resources for quick map generation. So for region maps, they have the Perilous Shores map maker, which will allow you to generate kind of a coastal region of a regional zoomed in map, ideal if your players are coming to a new region or you just need some inspiration for like a small campaign map. Say you're running a small micro campaign, a few sessions long, and you don't want to spend weeks and weeks making a dedicated map. Loading up the Perilous Shores is going to give you everything that you need to run something like that. Going one level below that, if you want town maps, city maps, village maps, Watabu has all of these as well. So I've talked about all of these on the channel before, but they will generate incredible looking villages, or you can use them for towns or hamlets, or you can make large city maps filled with all kinds of details, and you can change the colors and you can do really interesting things with them within the tool. But then you can also take them out and use Photoshop or Wonderdraft or Incarnate to turn them into much more pretty looking maps, and I've talked about that in videos before as well. And then once you have your town and your village and your region and your world, well, you're going to want some encounter maps. Watabu has got us covered there again for simple one-page dungeon maps. This is one of my favorite ways to keep my players occupied if they veer off the course that I had planned for the session and I need something to just keep them going while I lay the track down in front of the train like Wallace and Gromit. This will let you generate a one-page dungeon that will satisfy a session of play. And what I really love about this is you can get a plugin for Foundry VTT that will take this, import it into Foundry, give it all of the walls, and it means that you can really quickly and really easily present a vast swathe of dungeon content to your players. If you were running an old school style dungeon crawler sandbox hex crawl map with just what we've talked about alone, you'd pretty much be covered. If you want prettier maps, if you want something that's a little bit more curated, a bit more fine art, something that's not quite so black and white and monochrome, then my go-to option is Chepeku maps. I talk about Chepeku maps all the time. They've sponsored a whole bunch of videos, and for good reason. They are my go-to whenever I need a battle map. They've got a great map browser where you can go and look through hundreds of different options, and then most of their maps include at least one free map, so you don't need to pay for these. But then if you want some of the options and the variety, you can sign up to their Patreon and get just thousands for a great price. But there's also a couple of other small makers of maps that I really enjoy. If you use Dungeon Draft, then the Forgotten Adventures maps and their map packs are invaluable. You can load them into Dungeon Draft, replace all of the base assets within the system, and use them to build great looking maps. And they also have a variety of downloadable battle maps that you can get access to, including a bunch for like the Lost Mines of Phandelver. You can just pick up free map packs for all of the maps in that, which is really useful. And another option I like is Crosshead Studios. They're another maker that started making assets for Dungeon Draft and then made maps and now do a bunch of other things. And their style is a little bit more cartoony, but like the texture level and the detail level is much higher than base Dungeon Draft, and it's just got a really cozy vibe to their art style that I really enjoy. And then of course, if you want to make your own maps, you can use Dungeon Draft, Wonder Draft, or Incarnate. I've made videos on all of them, which I'll either put in the card if I can stick enough cards there, or down in the description for some resources to get you started with those. Next, let's talk about art assets. You want to add tokens to your game. You want to add image assets and just generally make your games look fancier. Well, to start with, we're going to talk about today's sponsor, Chepeku Tokens. Chepeku are the legendary makers of countless battle maps, which I've talked about here on the channel before, and now they've got an amazing token maker which allows you to quickly and easily create a whole host of unique and vibrant characters for your campaign. You can choose from hundreds of different token options using the browser on the Chepeku website, but not just that, you can go into each token and customize it, changing the color and background, but also their accessories, hairstyles, expressions, and more, allowing you to make a near endless combinations of tokens to include in your campaign. When you subscribe to Chepeku Tokens, you're going to get 5 new tokens every week, and then at the higher tier, you'll also unlock all that glorious customization. If you want to check it out for yourself, you can use my link in the description below to try out the token builder for free, and then when you're ready to subscribe, that'll let Chepeku know that I sent you. Thanks again to Chepeku for supporting the channel, but for now, back to the video. The next token maker that I want to talk about is Crosshead Studios. Again, they make these top-down, almost cartoon-style tokens that I really enjoy, and you can pick up animated versions of them. They're not the round-framed style that you're going to get with Chepeku or a lot of token packs with official adventures and things. They're more of the sort of full body top down PNG style. So depending on your preference, these might not work for you, but I think they look excellent. And keeping on that vein of the top down style of tokens, Forgotten Adventures, who are on our map list, also make it to our token list. They make a bunch of free options for tokens as well as a bunch of different paid options. And finally, what I think is a dark horse in the token race is Hero Forge. So most people think of Hero Forge just for making miniatures and then getting them printed and getting the STLs and using them physically. But at one of their subscription tier, you get access to like the token maker, which lets you remove the background and add frames and stuff. And it's actually a really useful way to make tokens and get quite a wide variety, because Hero Forge is packed with so many different like assets for trinkets and costumes and all of that kind of stuff. If you're looking beyond tokens and you want just a variety of art assets to include in your games, there's so many incredibly talented artists on Patreon that provide just swathes of different options. A couple of my current favorites are the Art Venturing Guild, which I'll, like everything, leave a link below. When you sign up to their Patreon, you get access to a massive library of NPC art, which is just so useful for being able to introduce your characters to a vast array of NPCs in the world and give them beautiful character art to go with it. And then if you want scenic art, you've got a couple different great options. Chepeku have Chepeku scenes, which match with a lot of their top-down map assets, which is great integration. Or James RPG Art does a wide array of different scenic options, including a bunch for adventure modules for 5th edition. Like the Curse of Strahd pack that James RPG does is frankly the only way that I would play Curse of Strahd in a VTT. Next, we come to the writing aspect of Game Master tools, Game Master preps, options to keep you from using goddamn GenAI. So the first thing that I want to shout out here is Fantasy Name Generator. you almost certainly know it. If you don't, you're about to love it. It is a collection of just a mind-bogglingly huge number of generators for different names of all types. So you've got actual given name generators, you've got place name generators, you've got title generators and planet generators and ship generators, and on the list goes. If you need a name and you don't want to think of it yourself, you don't go to ChatGPT, you go to fantasy name generators. That is the place that you go. Next up, if you want to generate a D&D style town, a settlement, and you want it to be fully done for you, and one of my absolute favorites is Fantasy Town Generator. So this will generate a map for you, and I could have put it in the map section of the video, but the reason I didn't is because the juice of Fantasy Town Generator for me comes from the fact that it will populate the entire town, literally every building with an NPC, and it will link those NPCs to other NPCs and to other places. And you can click on a place on the map that it generates, and it'll say this person lives here. You click on that person, and it will tell you what locations they're associated with. So where's their house? Where do they work? And it gives you their appearance and their personality. And if you want to just put a town in front of your players when they're traveling, and let's say they arrive at a town and you have no idea what that town is, I don't think there is a better resource to put in front of them than to just drop this down. You have a map ready to go, and literally all of the information is interwoven for you straight away. It's such a cool resource. But then let's say you want some other writing help. Well, I've got a couple of options for you there. My personal favorite these days is Glumdark. This is a grim dark kind of inspiration site with a whole bunch of tables, and it's just so funny. It's got a real kind of 80s satire vibe to it. It reminds me a lot of early Warhammer. You could use this for darker D&D games, for Warhammer games, for Morkborg games. It's got a wide variety of options here. You can use this to generate items, locations, characters, plot hooks. It's got a huge variety of the types of things to generate, and all of them are really, really flavorful. The flavor might not fit your campaign if you're running like a Humblewood or something really bright and vibrant and happy. It probably won't fit. But if you want to draw on some grim dark elements for your campaign, if you want sort of a darker tone, this is just the perfect site. And then the last tool in the writing section that I want to talk about is a staple of the D&D and the TTRPG community, and that's D&D Speak. This is a site dedicated to D100 tables, many of which have been made through collaboration over on Reddit throughout the years, and there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different tables that you can go and look up and find a D100 list. Anytime you need to roll a table, basically, D&D Speak is where you should be going. And you'll obviously find a lot of like generic entries in there, as you would in any list, but you're going to find the occasional just real batshit option that someone on Reddit has thrown out and everyone loved, and everyone's monkey brain has been like, I love that, that's so fun, that's so cool. And it's so cool to see all of these things collected together, knowing that they are the collective work of multiple people coming together and being like, this would be cool to have on this list, and this would be cool to have on this list. And it's just incredibly useful. Anytime you're starting a new campaign, browse through D&D Speak, look for some lists of things that are likely to come up in your campaign. Like if you're running a sci-fi game, look at some of the sci-fi themed lists and add some of these tables to your GM screen. Then to finish off today, I want to talk about some other tools that aren't like art or writing related, but some of the things that I've seen some people being like, oh, this is what I use this is what I use that crappy shitbag dog for. We're gonna have to cut that out, aren't we? And then finally, we come to the section of other tools. This is a collection of things that I've seen people say they use GenAI for that aren't writing or art, and I just want to cover it and show you what human-made tools you can find here. So the first thing that I want to talk about is rules referencing. Generative AI models, large language models, they have a real tendency to get specific details wrong. So if you want to reference rules, just go to the official sources. D&D Beyond does have the free core rules built in there. If you log into your account, you can use the encounter builder. You might not be able to see the stats of all the monsters, but you can get their CR, use the encounter builder to build balanced encounters, and then look up the rules in the books that you own or somewhere else. it is a useful site. If you don't want to use D&D Beyond, the 5e SRD has all of the SRD rules available for reference, and you can build encounters using Kobold Fight Club. If you're running the 2024 version of D&D, you're going to want to check out this video, because I've just built a quick monster builder that's going to allow you to get monsters on the table faster than ever and have them be balanced and in line with the official monsters without having to do a whole bunch of math, so go and check that out. And then next up, a kind of wild card here, not something that I really saw people talk about in these conversations, but something that I felt that I wanted to include was audio. I think that music and sound is really important when you're trying to create atmosphere and immersion, and my go-to for that is Tabletop Audio. They have a whole bunch of different free music and ambiances on there that you can use, and basically whenever I'm prepping one of my VTT sessions, I'll just think about what the players are likely to do that session. Are they going to go to a haunted house? Okay, so I'll go to Tabletop Audio and I'll type in some keywords associated with a haunted house. I'll type in ghosts and manor and spooky and see what comes up, listen to a couple tracks, download a couple of the free tracks, plug them into my VTT so that we can have a soundtrack to our Ghostbusters Scooby-Doo episode. And then finally, as a kind of catch-all resource that contains a whole bunch of different things, I want to talk about Here Be Taverns. Here Be Taverns is a website that I helped contribute to. I did a lot of the base writing for NPCs, so I have some first-hand experience with how these sort of human-built generators are made. Spoiler alert, it's a lot of spreadsheets, but Here Be Taverns is an excellent resource from Sword and Source, and it combines the work of multiple creators and brings together all of their strengths into a selection of different generators. So pretty much anything that you might need in a session, you're probably going to find in Here Be Taverns. There is a tavern map generator to give you a simple layout tavern. You can get characters, including some artwork. I think the way that the artwork is generated from that is basically like different pieces that all fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. I find it fascinating. You can get magic items like Griffin's saddlebag and magic items, spells, monsters, plot hooks, interesting locations, and there's also options. If you want to subscribe to the site, you can get even more as well. So there we have it. There's my list of different human-made resources to improve your D&D game without you needing to resort to using generative AI. I'd love to know down in the comments if any of these resources are new to you or which one is your favorite. Let me know down in the comments below. If you want to keep watching, check out this video where I go over how I keep notes as a dungeon master that I won't forget, an essential tip for all GMs out there. But until next time, happy gaming.